Hi, this is Tom Clark at Unfurled TV. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in Europe and how Europe, I don't know, has made fun of Americans being rednecks and gun toters and, basically knuckle draggers. Recently I saw a video from Paul Joseph Watson talking about Paris being a crap hole and the problem with migration from third world countries and, accosting people in the streets, especially women, a bunch of thuggery going on, feces in the streets. It's basically San Francisco, but instead of it being basically a drug problem, it's an immigrant problem. And I don't have anything against the third world countries or other races. I would like to see them all doing well. But I don't think that you save those nations and people by bringing them into a society that's working and destroying the society that's working. I think how you help those people and those nations is you have a strong nation, a compassionate nation, a good economic foundation, and the rule of law, and rooting out corruption to the best of your ability. And I think in the Paul Joseph Watson video, he talks about Trump saying that France is no longer France. And, I don't know how exactly true that is, but we see a lot of videos on Sweden, England, France, Germany. We see other nations like Poland and Hungary opposing, falling into the same immigrant trap. All in all, based upon the reporting I've seen and the video and testimony that backs it up, I think that these are really big problems in their countries and in Europe. And I kind of want to tie that issue in with censorship, because one of the biggest ways that people are getting censored now, or one of the biggest reasons that people are getting censored, is because, they see Western culture being destroyed. And anytime they speak up about Western culture being destroyed and it being due to another population that has a different culture, then the people defending Western culture are seen as racist, or the media casts them as racist. Therefore, companies like Facebook and Twitter, they think they have the grounds to censor these people. So it's all tied together. I see this all tied together. And one of the things that I wanted to reach out to the people in Europe who I consider my friends, I've considered the whole world my friend, the people of it anyway, people of goodwill that are in the world, people that want peace, people that want freedom. I don't care where you are, you're my friend. If you are an authoritarian, you're not my friend. If you want to impose a way of life over an indigenous population that the indigenous population doesn't want, you're not my friend. But anyway, getting back to the idea that the Europeans have, there's been a long history of people on the other side of the pond demonizing Americans for being, thinking that guns were a good thing to have for the population to have. You have to understand that our founding fathers were actually, I don't know if they were genius or just lucky. I know that they were smart, but it may just be luck that they decided that the population, it should be encoded in law that it's almost impossible to reverse anything in the Bill of Rights. Any substantial freedom that's in the Bill of Rights is just almost impossible to get rid of once the people have embraced it. And the American people embraced the Second Amendment. So the situation is in Europe that you basically have a people that have embraced the First Amendment, but you don't have anything that keeps the government in fear of the people, not substantially, not like we do here in America. In America, the government doesn't just fear us for our votes. They fear of how much pain that we could drop on them in society, because we have the right to bear arms, and the right to bear arms isn't the right to hunt. I hate, by the way, you politicians that go out and make commercials like, I'd like to hunt and, shoot a skeet or something. That's not what the Second Amendment's about, and you know it, you sellout. The Second Amendment is about, and if you study history at all, if you're a politician, if you're a Republican politician, you know that the right to bear arms has to do with standing up to a tyrannical government. That's what America's about. It's always been that way. And you know that. And then you're making this stupid commercial about hunting. I mean, how ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing, the most, what do the kids call it? The most cucked thing you could do. If you're going to make a commercial based on the Second Amendment, make it a right one. Make it about truth. Hold out your gun and say, we have the right to bear arms so that tyranny will not rule over us. And because we have the right to bear arms, tyranny hasn't ruled over us. Make a commercial that's honest. Anyway, I digress. The Europeans, you have no means to enforce anything that's codified on your behalf. You have nothing. You can bitch and moan and whine and vote and for one party or another, and all of your parties are authoritarians, and there's nothing that you can do about it. But had you been, instead of ridiculing the American public, understood that mindset about gun rights and your rights coming from you, not from the state, not from what your neighbor says you get to do, but from what your inherent right as a human being, as a thinking individual, what you're allowed to do and not do, so long as you're not harming someone else. You have had 200 years to embrace those principles. And now, because you did not, because you made fun of us instead of understanding about us, what was going on over here, you've painted yourself into a corner. Now your society is going down the tubes, and there's literally nothing that you can do about it because you didn't codify this in law, that you had this right, that no simple majority could take this right away from you. You just laughed it off and called us knuckledraggers. And hey, I'm not saying Western society will be saved. I don't know that. America could suffer the same fate as Europe. But what I'm pretty sure of, but what I think I can guarantee you is that we'll be the last to go. And we have gun violence here. We have it more than some other countries, say Canada, for instance, that's for sure. But it's not out of whack. It's not super extraordinary. It's a little more violence and a little more death. But what we have done is we preserved so much by it. There is no way that we will ever lose the First Amendment. We won't, it will never, ever happen. The only way it'll happen is if they build enough robots to go round us all up. It can't happen, and it's not going to happen because we have the Second Amendment. If we didn't have the Second Amendment and we didn't have the First Amendment and we didn't have the Constitution that framed our rights in a way that it's almost impossible to take away something that the population values, well, we'll be the last to go. And you guys laughed at our form of government. You guys laughed at our right to bear arms. But it's all one package, mate. It's all one package. And I encourage you, if you ever get your ships turned around, take those fundamental rights that people need to have and enshrine them. Don't put them up to the whim of the majority. Put them, only let the super duper majority overturn those rights, okay? No party should be able to go in and take away citizens' fundamental rights. So next time you're trying to make fun of America and call us knuckle draggers and we have a poor education system and all of that, look at what's going on in Europe. Look what's going on in your cultures, and you tell me who went down the wrong path. the snobs of Europe have socially engineered the worst disaster ever to happen to any culture in modern history is happening right now. And you're holding on to your snobbery. Don't look to these super geniuses that say they have all the answers. If you'll just vote for them, and with a simple majority, they're going to go around and change fundamentally, who has what's rights and what they can do or things like that. Yeah, that snobbery hasn't worked for you. It's worked for other nations that are now taking advantage of you and are going to crush your way of life. How women are treated in the streets. It's going to crush what you can and can't say. Going to crush who you can and can't disagree with. Us yokels, us knuckledraggers over here, we were blessed. Our founders, they studied history and they did something. They did something wonderful. They didn't put a copyright on it. Everybody's free to, mimic it, understand why it works, why it's so good, and follow in those footprints. Change it up if you need it. But the right to have an armed citizenry ready to stand up against a tyrannical government, that's a basic thing that you should have. You should have the right to complain about other people and other ideas, whatever you want to. You should have the right. Now in America, you have to have so many in Congress vote for it, but you also have to have 3/4 of the states ratify it. And the flyover country is never going to ratify something that overturns our Second Amendment and First Amendment rights. It's never going to happen. And so, like I say, it might be robots one day that take over. But, you couldn't get enough police in the streets or enough army in the streets to take away our guns or our freedom of speech. Sadly, like I say, instead of embracing and holding up the ideas that the American founders had, instead of seeing the wisdom in what they done, you said that, you're older, you're intellectuals are wiser, and France is no longer France. London is no longer London. Sweden is no longer Sweden. America may no longer be America here, 10, 30 years. I don't know. But it'll be the last to go. And it will be because we have the wisdom of our founding fathers to put together a system that protects us not only as individuals, but as a culture. I wish you all the best over there in Europe, but in my opinion, one of the smart things that you would do at this time is to get in fully understand how the United States Constitution works, understand how strong our rights are protected, and then you demand the same for your countries. It's the only hope that you have, I think. And you better do something now before it's too late. You cannot last on the flimsy foundations that you guys have. You really need to get into your people's mindset that you have these rights as individuals to complain. You have the right as an individual to be prepared to fight against a tyrannical government. You have that right. Now, I'm not for violence. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't want to march out in the streets. I don't want my sons to march out in the streets. I don't want to have to take my firearms and do anything with them. But just having them. But think about this. Just like, mutual assured destruction that we have in the nuclear arms race. Because America has this crazy nuclear arsenal, it basically deters nuclear war across the globe. Same thing with the Second Amendment right. With every citizen having a gun in their home, that keeps government accountable to the people. We never have to use the gun for it to be useful. You see? That's the great hope. That it's strength through peace. I mean, it's peace through strength. All right? We want peace, but we don't achieve peace by being an intellectual snob. We achieve peace by having a gun. And in my case, and in the case of my family members, several guns. Okay, so that's how we keep our rights. That's how we keep our culture. That's how we keep the government in check over here, and that's how we are able to defend our culture if need be. And you guys should be thinking along the same lines.